begin with breaking news out of Queens, where police say they have found nearly dozens of migrants living in a small, cramped basement. Emergency services have now been called for this.
Each week, thousands of single adults and families arrive here on buses from border states, and finding housing for everyone has become increasingly difficult. So Mayor Eric Adams is floating an idea, asking private homeowners to share their space. Those willing will be paid by the city.
It's cheaper and it's a good investment for us to go to a family and assist them instead of placing people in large congregate settings or in these emergency hotels.
And he's already created controversy for previous plans to house migrants, such as housing men in tents on the Orchard Beach parking lot, then Randall's Island, both scrapped amid flooding concerns. Placing migrants in school gyms fell flat with parents and students. Starting next month, nearly 1,000 migrants will be housed in 50 churches and houses of worship. These faith-based shelters will be open from 7 at night to 7 in the morning. The migrants will then be moved to daytime centers, which will also be faith-based operated, but paid for by the city. Another option to shelter migrants, the old postal warehouse at JFK Airport. The FAA just gave its approval, saying the space has adequate security and safety plans in place for housing.
What's your view of all the migrants in New York City right now?
I believe that we have to have a better plan. The migrants right here are using a lot of our services, crowding our streets, and aren't allowed to work. It's a desperate situation.
I don't think we have the capacity to hold all those people, in a sense. But it's also like we can't just leave those people. So I don't know what we would really do.
A lot of the migrants are staying in hotels around here.
Okay.
For free.
For free?
For free.
Damn, that's a nice little deal they got going. Do I like that? I would say no, I don't. I would say I don't.
You know, here in New York, we're going to spend $53 million to give all the migrants $1,000 a month.
Dreadful?
Dreadful?
That's your money?
Make this man the president.
I'd like $1,000 a month.
Yeah, me too.
One thing Governor Abbott and Mayor Adams agree on is that the border problem is a Biden problem.
There's only one reason why this is happening, and that's because Joe Biden has eliminated all of the 4 policies that Donald Trump put in place that led to the lowest illegal border crossings in 40 years.
Former President Donald Trump has vowed to crack down on immigration again if he's elected to a second term in office.
All the time, I'll solve the border problems within 24 hours of taking office.
Still, it points to a bigger issue that we've got here, which is a migrant crisis that isn't going away. And we seem a little stuck in Congress with respect to finding some sort of resolution. We've still got another year under Joe Biden. It feels like the country can't afford to wait to make a change.
Well, look, it's good to be with you. I think what you're seeing in New York is emblematic of what you're seeing all across the country. Every city in our country is overrun by this illegal immigrant crisis caused by Joe Biden. We now have 7.3 million encounters at the southern border. We're on track to have 10 million encounters during one presidential administration. This has never happened in American history, not even close. It's a catastrophe, and I don't care what your politics are. It is a man-made political disaster brought to us by Joe Biden and the Democrat Party. So in New York, they can now say that they're going to now reverse course and not give social services to illegal immigrants. But the reality is that the Democrat Party realizes how terrible of a policy this has become, and they're trying to place blame and change the subject. In the House and in Congress overall, look, there is no solution because the Democrats do not want to change. They've wanted this policy for 30 years. Now they got this policy. And so my position and a growing number of Republicans, our position is simply there will be no money until you secure the border. You secure the border, then we'll talk about funding the government and other issues.
And poll after poll finds New Yorkers angry at the federal government and their lack of help in fixing this crisis. Mayor Adams has gone to D.C. more than 10 times, pleading for help with what could be a $12 billion cost over the next 3 years. Right now, New York City is on its own, running out of money and out of room.
We're getting close to anywhere from 2,500 to peaking at 4,000 a week.
What happens when there's no more room? I mean, we're almost at capacity now, right?
No, we're there. We're there. We're not just saying we're out of room as a soundbite. We're out of room, literally. People are going to be eventually sleeping on the streets.
Okay, what would it take for you to close the front door?
I don't have the authorization to tell people they can't come into New York City.
Why not?
It's against the law. It's against the law.
But everybody keeps talking about sanctuary city, that we're not using it the way that it was originally intended.
And I agree. We cannot by law tell someone if they come into the city, you can't come into the city. We can't even turn them over to ICE.
I know, we see that. There are crimes that are going on in the city that are migrant related, and there's no talk about that at all. Why not? Why can't the NYPD notify ICE?
The law states that we cannot notify ICE. I cannot break the law and enforce the law.
So what I think I'm confused about is, you know, migrants have come to our city for years and years, decades, but they were not given a hotel room. They were not given food, clothing, cell phones, health insurance. Stop it. Why can't you stop it?
We have never witnessed this level of migration in this hemisphere. Europe was dealing with this. But with the destabilization of Venezuela, we've never witnessed before. 7.5 million people in this hemisphere. So we are being inundated. And we have now moved into another phase of saying all of those services that you're talking about, that we're down to food, shelter, clothing. That's it. Because this is a national problem. It's unfair for local municipalities and cities to handle this problem.
But the president says the border is secure. Is it?
Well, I don't know the definition of what they're using as secure. You know,
would you say it was secure?
I think too many people are coming through various pathways and cavities in our border, and we have to be extremely careful because not everyone that's coming is pursuing the American dream.
Let's talk about the border, Congressman. What are these military-aged Chinese men doing sneaking up through our southern border?
They got no business in our country, except if you really want to take a step back and think from a diabolical perspective that, yes, the Chinese government is moving people into our country. Yes, people in the Middle East are moving military-aged men into our country, but they have no place here. There's no persecution that's going on that they can document. That's why asylum is supposed to happen outside of our country before you come in, unless it's something that is clear and present that everybody in the world can see. And then, of course, we make special exemptions when those things occur. But like I said at the top, the Democrat Party overall, they have wanted this policy. They have been lying to the American people for years, gaslighting the American people about southern border security and immigration overall. And now that it's a problem for all of our citizens, now you see the polling shift dramatically away from Joe Biden and the Democrats into support of Donald Trump and the Republican position, which is secure the border first, then take care of everything else after that.
Well, and Bill, it begs the question, is President Biden now shifting a bit on his immigration policy? No doubt his administration has been getting some heat from some Democrats, namely in cities just like this, getting pounded by this crisis. But as you know, every action has a reaction, and the one in this case from immigration rights advocates, well, it's not a good one.
These policies come straight from the Trump book.
The backlash already pouring in. The Biden administration considering executive action that would give the president power to bar migrants from claiming asylum if they cross the border illegally. The New York Immigration Coalition sees right through it.
We need the Biden administration to champion immigrants and to stop playing into the Republicans' ploy of attacking immigrants.
The administration has been under increasing scrutiny by members of the president's own party for not doing enough to rein in the crisis with a direct impact on New York.
Yes, we have to look at the conditions that were being used for asylum now because they're more expansive than had been in the past. They are.
Today, Governor Hochul, in an interview with Politico, said the onus is still on Congress, specifically Republicans, who scrapped bipartisan border legislation earlier this month. But if they aren't going to take action,
malpractice of governance meant that Biden had to step up.
In 2018, former President Donald Trump tried to use his powers under the immigration statute, which zeroes in on illegal crossings between ports of entry, but it was blocked by the courts.
The very anti-immigrant proposals that we're seeing would not be effective at securing the border.
Deputy Mayor Ann Williams-Isom says it's too early to tell what the action would really look like under Biden, but relief is mandatory, despite the rebuttal from immigrant advocates.
I would tell my brothers and sisters at the coalition that I know that they know what's happening in New York City is not right. If Republicans in Congress can't act, we would appreciate if the White House or the federal government would take action that would provide some relief to localities.
The deputy mayor says New York City is seeing far fewer new arrivals, with 1,300 last week. Remember, we were seeing upwards of 4,000 during the peak of all of this. Some legal experts reportedly say that even if the president takes advantage of this executive action, it would not allow him to completely shut down the border, hence the questions about how effective this really would be. The White House has yet to make an official decision.